Last year, I did a video all about my favorite camera of 2022. Well, that was a lot of fun. And let me tell you, I've been thinking about it since the very start of this year for this year's video. And that's because there have been a lot of cameras that have come out and we had some really good ones really early on. So let's talk about what is my favorite camera of 2023. Now, I should probably quantify exactly how I'm judging my favorite camera of 2023. Last year was the OM1 from OM System, which was a massive surprise to me, to be honest. I didn't expect that to be my favorite camera, but there are kind of a few elements to this. Would I actually see myself using the camera day to day? Well, could it potentially replace my Sony A7 III? But on top of that, what was my experience actually using the camera, right? Because there are some cameras that I use that I can see are fantastic cameras, but they're just not for me. There might be some small frustrations that wouldn't affect other people, or there might be some things that are great about the camera that don't really do anything for me, particularly in the way that I shoot. So this really is a very subjective look at what would be my favorite camera of 2023 in terms of what would suit me best and in terms of my actual experience with the camera. What was it like? How did I feel using it? How did it change my experience of going out and shooting? My particular needs for shooting have changed a little bit over the years, but for the most part, it's being able to shoot good video like this, so good quality video, being able to shoot video handheld, so just on the go, on the run and gun style, just moving around, not having to use a gimbal. So image stabilization is quite important to me, to be honest with you, and being able to take very nice stills as well. That's hugely important, right? Whether you're taking portraits, landscapes, street photography, food photography, I take a very wide variety of shots, right? Because of my job, it's all the genres really. I don't specify into one particular, I guess maybe a bit more landscape and portrait, but it's everything really. So it needs to be a very good all-rounder. So for me, I'm really looking for a very good all-rounder hybrid camera. And there was one that stuck out. I wonder, can you guess what it is before we get there? Well, let's start right back at the beginning of 2023. In January, we saw the release of the new Panasonic Lumix S5 II, and of course, a little bit later in the year, the S5 IIX. And I remember thinking back then about this video because that camera was such a joy to use. Oh, I remember thinking this could be the camera. This could be the one, my favorite camera of 2023. And while I don't think it is going to be that #1 spot for me, it is a fantastic system. It is so far ahead of where the S5 felt like it was. And I like the S5, but the autofocus, it's fixed, it's sorted. And that means that everything else is able to shine. I must say, it's some of the best image stabilization I've ever used. And just as a camera, whether you're video or photo, it's just lovely to actually go out and shoot with that camera. We saw some nice entries from Canon, although realistically, probably not going to be my favorite camera of the year, right? So the R50 and the R8, both great systems in their own right and great for a certain kind of shooting, especially the R8 actually. I could see myself using the R8 as a second camera. Not my favorite cameras of the year, but good entries for sure. And the R50 is the kind of camera that I've actually recommended a couple of times to people who want to get into photography. They don't want to spend loads. They don't want something that's super complicated. Great for that side of things. Now, okay, Sony, this is where things get a little bit interesting. We saw some new cameras from them early in the year. We saw some new cameras from them later in the year. They were going for it. Right, with new cameras, they were going for it. Let's talk about the ones earlier in the year. Now, first of all, the ZV-1 Mark II. Fine, totally fine vlogging camera, just not for me personally. It's not a camera that I would necessarily use because I don't really do any vlogging. I don't shoot content in that way. So it's not really gonna fill the specific needs that I have. If you do vlogging, it's a very useful thing to have. That's also how I felt about the ZV-E1, which I didn't expect to like nearly as much as I did. I kind of wrote that off as part of the ZV range. You know, okay, great, it's gonna be fine, let's move on. But that's not the case. And actually, there was a time in 2023 where I was thinking of upgrading from my A7 III to the ZV-E1. I would never have thought that that was something that might happen. I would never have thought that was even a possibility in the slightest, but that was something I considered doing early in the year. For now though, it's difficult to get rid of my A7 III because it just keeps working. But there is a lot to that camera. The ZV-E1 really is quite impressive. Much, much better, to be honest, than you might expect, bearing in mind its part of the ZV range. I would feel very comfortable using that camera. Now, later in the year, Sony also released the A7C Mark II and the A7C-R as well. Again, both lovely cameras, probably not suited particularly well for me personally, but great if you want to do traveling, if you want to do on-the-fly kind of content creation, fantastic cameras for photo, again, and for video. Everything's hybrid now, really. So while I definitely appreciate them, again, for my personal kind of needs, for what I'd be going for, probably not going to take that #1 spot. That also goes for the A6700, which again is a lovely compact APS-C camera. Really liked using it, really like shooting with it. Just again, for me, not quite the one I'd go for. That wasn't even it for Sony though, because of course, fairly recently, they also released the A9 III. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky one because I haven't personally gone hands-on with it. I'm hoping to be able to get my hands on it and do a full proper review of it sometime in the next sort of month or so. But for now, I've not actually held it. But what I can tell you is it does sound very, very exciting. And the people I've spoken to who have used it, including Terrence, who works at Park Cameras, say it is fantastic, a really awesome camera. Stuff like having a global shutter is wild. That's wild stuff. Really exciting. And while that is really cool, and all of that makes a lot of sense, it probably still wouldn't be the camera that I would personally go for. There's a lot in there that I can completely appreciate, and I think is very good for the industry as a whole, actually, as well. It's just probably not the camera for me. That actually similarly sums up how I feel about the Leica Q3, which we saw released this year. Lovely camera. I had a lot of fun going out and using that. Obviously, it's difficult not to love Leica stuff, right? It's just very nice in the hands. The image quality is beautiful. Everything about it is lovely. Again, though, it just probably for my needs, probably wouldn't be my #1 choice from the year. Now, I think at this point, you might be able to tell where we're going with this, but let's get through a couple more that are good, that I've enjoyed. There's no camera. Look, here's the thing, right? Every camera that comes out now is at least very good. I said this last year, but it's just the way it is. Every camera really is at least very good. You very rarely see a camera now that doesn't have great autofocus, right? Good video capability along with the stills. That was absolutely the case, for example, with the Fujifilm GFX 100 Mark II. What a camera. I mean, incredible image quality, much better autofocus, better video performance, just better kind of usability as a camera. And it shines through when you're using it. Again, it's probably more camera than I need. There's probably more there than I would get use from, but a beautiful camera and a massive step up in that kind of, well, Fujifilm call it large format kind of system, but medium format. You get it, we get it. We get it, medium format, right? A big step up in that medium format kind of thing. You don't have to use it just in the studio or just on a tripod. You can do what you like. You can go walking around with it. You can go on a little hike with it. Lovely. So with all that said, there really is one big launch that happened this year, which I have left out, I've not mentioned yet. And that is my favorite camera of the year. And that is the camera that I could imagine myself actually switching to. And that's the Nikon Z8. Ooh, that is a great camera. It's everything you love about the Z9, but it's a bit smaller. And in some ways, I actually think I just like it better. I like the way it handles, I like the way it feels. It feels more like a hybrid camera. I love the video capabilities. I love the photo capabilities. I had 2 proper hands-on kind of times with it in 2023. Once at the launch event, which is a lot of fun. And I just loved using it. And then they actually sent it to me for a full proper review. And again, I loved using it. I could absolutely see a world where I'm using that every day, right? For these videos, for taking photos, for doing client work, for doing all kinds of stuff. Yes, that is such a good camera. It is ridiculous. I need to find a way to get one. I need to find a way to have one in my hands at all times, really. I would just like to have it at all times. Huge fan, difficult not to be. I mean, I think probably anyone who's tried it will tell you it is one of the best cameras that you can buy now. If you're looking for a hybrid system, it's very, very difficult to beat. I shoot Sony pretty much all the time. And so because of that, you have lenses and stuff like that, there's an incentive, right? To stick within that system, maybe upgrade within that ecosystem. But even with that said, the Nikon Z8, oh, it's the one I'd go for. That is such a, I'm lost for words, to be honest with you. I don't have any more words. I'd be really interested to know what you think though. What is your favorite camera of 2023? It doesn't have to be a new release. If you're still just in love with the camera that you're using, like it's difficult for me to get over my A7 III, to be honest with you. If you're still in love with something like that, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear that. Is there a new camera that's come out this year that you would potentially be that you're getting too tempted by, you know? Where you're like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with my camera, but I wouldn't hate to switch. That's actually how I felt by the S5 II at the beginning of the year. It's just the Nikon Z8. What a camera. Let me know all that stuff down in the comments. It's a fun conversation to have. I think it's really interesting. Of course, you can check out all of these cameras that we've talked about by heading down to the description. There's links down there to check out all of the different cameras. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. We've got loads of interesting, fun content coming for the end of this year. I was about to say for 2024. We're not quite there yet. For the end of this year, we've got a full year in review coming as well. And of course, 2024, yes. Tutorial Tuesday, absolutely. Reviews, absolutely. Maybe other stuff. Maybe new stuff. Don't get too excited, but also, thanks for watching.